Hey everyone, welcome to Strange Stories, where we explore near-death experiences and supernatural stories from people who've had a glimpse of the other side. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Without further ado, let's get to the story of the day. I had a hunch a few weeks before the near-death experience that I would die soon. It was a gut feeling that went beyond the fact that I was quite ill. I also had the unmistakable impression, for the first time or since, that the curtain between realms was thin. That is the best description I can think of. Other realms or worlds were more visible and closer than previously. I couldn't see them, but they seemed closer than before, on this deep, inner knowing level. I had difficulty eating and digesting meals, was quite weak, and numerous doctor visits did little to improve the problem. I'd been diagnosed with parasites and had reportedly had a variety of parasites for approximately a year and a half prior, following a vacation to Asia. I was 21 years old, in my senior year of college, and was about to graduate. My body simply gave out one day, before the NDE, while walking to class. I told it to walk, but it refused. It just sat there on the sidewalk for as long as I tried to move it. This exemplifies how sick I was. I was eventually able to get up and return to my apartment. Then, one evening, before going to a little dinner party at my house, I slumped over into the bed and quickly found myself peering down a magnificent white tunnel. The light did not appear homogeneous, but rather varied and multi-hued, as if it had texture. There appeared to be a limit at the finish. A gorgeous woman and a small child stood towards the end of the tunnel, looking at me with a compassionate expression. Their bodies were formed of light, and they were dazzling and gorgeous. During this vision, I felt strong, loving, euphoric, and pleased. The two people, who were holding hands, turned around and exited the tunnel, and I was back on the bed where I had landed. The whole affair appeared to go quickly. I was in a really loving and thankful attitude that night at the dinner party, though I informed no one what had transpired. I was grateful for being there, for being alive, and for having a very tender love and caring for my party friends. I couldn't figure out who the figures were, why one of them was a little child, and what they were doing there. But I didn't mind being perplexed because it felt so serene and lovely. I went looking for meals the day after this white tunnel incident. I remember thinking to myself that I might die soon and that I should send a note to my parents. I felt so weak and tired that even my thoughts were exhausted. This notion rapidly faded away, replaced by quiet. Despite my bodily discomfort, I felt at ease. It was usual for me to be unable to think or to have difficulty thinking during this period of extreme illness and poor energy. I was extremely hungry, as I typically am around this time of year, since no matter how much I ate, I would still be hungry owing to poor digestion and other gastrointestinal issues. I attempted to reach inside the cabinet for food, but my body refused to cooperate. Because I was too weak to move, I chose to lie down on the couch. With sunshine flowing in, I had the sensation, never before or since, of all the life and light in each of my body's cells slowly dying. Close your eyes, for example, and you can experience sensations and movement in your body, which are feelings of being alive. It felt as if all those feelings of aliveness were being extinguished, like a small candle going out in each cell of the body. After all of the life or light seemed to fade away, I had the sensation of floating out of my body, accompanied by a very serene and happy feeling. Extremely peaceful, I'm not sure why, but the body of subtle energy, or whatever you want to call it, returned to the physical body after only a few moments of floating. I felt fairly peaceful and equanimous and thought to myself, well, I guess I'm still alive. After that, I gradually improved enough to feel more useful, despite the fact that my health may be pretty terrible at times. I still have health issues around 12 years later. However, things are getting better. An interesting side aspect is that I later discovered that an astrologer had examined my chart and determined that I was in risk of dying physically during the month in which I had the NDE. Years later, a psychic told me that the two entities in the tunnel had stopped my death at the moment so that I might continue learning, growing, and developing excellent traits. This seemed like a reasonable notion to me. Since the encounter, I've seen these two beings, among others, numerous times. They frequently appear to my waking eyes in dreams or in my inner vision. They have come to help me with some really useful advice, but always with strong loving and caring feelings, especially when I'm having a very hard time physically or emotionally. Also, delivering healing energies or health counsel on occasion. This has enabled me to feel supported and persevere in the face of adversity. I don't tell many people about it, and it doesn't interfere with my daily functioning, so I'm not concerned about appearing insane. I have my doubts about the veracity of these encounters. Finally, I consider that they are beneficial and induce positive bodily and emotional feelings that help me live a better life. Thus, I am content regardless of whether they're real or not. While I occasionally question whether a particular vision is entirely correct, I have a deep belief in the reality of heavenly creatures, delicate-bodied entities, other realms of existence, and so on. The second encounter occurred when I was 6 in 1993, just a few weeks before turning 7, but I didn't consciously remember it until 2009 when I was 22, approximately a year after the previous two. It was a pretty clear memory, similar in vividness to the white tunnel vision when I remembered it after some therapy, I believe. My younger brother and I were playing at the time. He had just turned 4 and I was 6. We dashed to the tire swing. He fell while swinging on the tire swing with me. In my memories, I suddenly found myself in this tunnel of white light, surrounded by really tranquil and loving sentiments. My brother was traveling along the tunnel ahead of me, and I was following him. After we had progressed a little further along the tunnel, he turned around and compassionately gazed at me. Mind to mind, he told me something like, "It's not your time. You must return." He felt extremely friendly to me as he talked, and then I found myself standing in my body near where he was on the ground. When I returned to my body, my family began to rush out in a panic to help him. Neighbors and an ambulance arrived, but no attempt to resuscitate him were successful. During the experience, I had a feeling in my heart that the tunnel ended in some great bright light, and that kind beings were waiting there to receive my brother. It felt like he was going to a good place. After returning, there was some kind of inner knowing, beyond verbal, that life here on earth is very short, and that I would be returning to that nice place very soon. Not that I'd die young necessarily, just that life is short. Both experiences, I believe, led to a decreased fear of death. It feels like death is a very pleasant experience that involves going to a very pleasant place. Sometimes I think that by not dying at age 21 instead of going to a very pleasant place, I returned to over a decade of very intense pain. However, I actually do feel grateful when I reflect on how much I've been able to learn and grow while living as a human, despite the fact that it has involved a lot of pain. So I hope what I've said has been useful to someone, and I wish you the best.